and welcome back to Absolutely. Today is going to be our Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 review. Brought to you by me, Benny from Comic Story, and Sal from Comic Pop, and Hassan from the Mickey Puppet TikTok.
It's Bad Days. Thank you very much.
Or the Bad Days podcast.
Bad Days podcast. Yeah.
No, I was going to get there, but I want people to know where your roots are from, where you're initially from.
What pays all my bills to this day? Yeah, it's just me.
And today's episode is brought to you by Gamers Subs. Make sure you go down below, click the link, use the code comics to get yourself some amazing energy drinks. Big fan of their flavors, their fruity flavors, their pineapple flavors, which is also fruity, but it's one of the ones I enjoy the most. They've also got a few other brands such as Waifu Cups, where you can get these anime women on these cups, and you can use these as your shakers to get your drink mixed up. It's one of my favorite drinks to go out there. We find it less chalky than its competitors. I highly recommend it. Definitely check them out. Use the code down below. Comics, get yourself 10% off of your order or free shipping, depends on what deal is going at the time of you watching this particular podcast. Also, we're brought to you by a Kickstarter comic known as Megalith. There's a company out there known as Bad Idea, and they're full of bad ideas, such as packaging their comic books with donuts or limit releasing their comic books into comic book stores and making it so you have to follow them on Twitter to find their comic books. Well, if you want to get your hands on one of the most incredible storylines going on in independent comic books, because so far all of their comics have been incredible, then you need to head on over to their Kickstarter and join Megalith. I'm going to give an image for our editor to put up right now so you can see how incredible the artwork is, but I can't show it to you here on the live stream, but it will be on the post afterwards. And if you want to know how incredible this...
Cool.
If you want to know how incredible this Kickstarter is, they have only been up for 3 days, and they are at $269,000 of their $10,000 goal. So Definitely get your hands on this comic. It's going to be a super collectible item, super difficult to find later. So you just want to get ahead of it. Get it in your hands right now. Check out Megalith. All right, that's it. Let's talk about Guardians.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
it's incredible. It's an incredible
film.
So
I want to do this because I want to do two things. I want to start this off. We'll do the non-spoiler version of the review because we always open up with our initial thoughts.
Love it.
I'll take point, and then we'll move it to Hassan and Sal. But I think this is a return to form for Marvel. I thought this was incredible. I thought the jokes weren't overly over the top. I thought they were on point. I thought we had the right emotional moments. I felt like the story conclusion to all three movies, plus Infinity War, plus Endgame, plus the Christmas special, all of it came full circle to give us a nice closure to the entire Guardians team while leaving the door open for things to continue onward. I feel this is probably one of the best MCU movies since Endgame, if we're not counting the 2 Spider-Men that came out.
Right.
So, well, like I brought that up one time. The camera for Hassan is hitting the ground.
We're good.
I brought that up. I was like, best movie since Spider-Man. And then the debate was like, well, was Spider-Man as good as Guardians? The fact that that's a debate should tell you how good this movie is.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I agree.
So, Hassan, what is your thoughts if you're going to hold your camera steady for a minute?
Yeah, I'll hold. Okay. So,
old school vlog style.
Hey, guys, let's go on an adventure with me. Honestly, I feel the exact same way. I don't, and the question is return to form for Marvel or a swan song for James Gunn, right? Is it Marvel? Is this the editorial decisions that were made by Feige a few months ago where they were like, hey, we're going to stop putting out quantity and start bringing back to quality? Or is this James Gunn having the time to tell this narrative? Because James Gunn, more so than any other thing, wasn't to abide by like a release timeline for this movie because he was fired. And the movie was supposed to come out 4 years ago, I think, right? Something like that. And then in the interim, he got to just really work on this story. And I think it shows, man. It's the music. I mean, we get into music that I grew up with rather than music that I'm, like I heard my parents grow up with or something like that, stuff that relates a little bit more to me. And it was just incredible. I mean, everything about the story was heartfelt, and you could make the debate. Anybody who's like the MCU died after Endgame. Well, I think 4 of my top, 10 MCU movies come from the last couple years, honestly. Like Guardians was a reminder of like Guardians and Spider-Man No Way Home, Black Panther 2 are 3 incredible films. And I would say Guardians and Spider-Man No Way Home are in like a league of their own as movies. Just wow. So
Sally, your thoughts before I start going deeper into all the topics?
I really loved this movie. I enjoyed seeing it. I'm concerned because It is definitely a beautiful cap to a nice trilogy. It's one of the few like complete trilogies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe
Yeah.
that doesn't feel like it was just like bogged down by connections or other plot points. They managed to very quickly and efficiently shoehorn any references to Endgame or Avengers movies and just kind of get back to what the story is about these few characters. That's my biggest concern, is that it's really great, and now he's leaving. So you know, it's not like James Gunn helped make other things.
Well,
It's just this. So
I wanted
when
to
he's
start with
gone,
that.
that's it.
I wanted to start with that point right there, actually, because everyone who watches our reviews knows we don't go beat by the movie. I
No.
find that to be overall a waste of our time, so I'd rather just go with what we liked and disliked and jump around. But of
Totally.
course, that's going to bring up the big thing about James Gunn leaving. Now, do we think that this movie is so amazing because of James Gunn, or because James Gunn was given the time to work on it, which proves Kevin Feige's new direction of having more time with the movies? The CG I didn't find too questionable. I don't think at any
Nothing.
point was I like, oh, what is that?
I mean, it looked
No.
incredible. I mean, some of the shots, entire CG compositions, but that computer generated camera, the movements on it, this was some of the most bold camera work in a Marvel movie, in a superhero movie, in a movie, period.
Yeah.
Point blank. Chris Nolan included, whatever he's up to in his weird little pocket universe of his films. This, like there's an action sequence that we'll talk about in the spoiler part. Had some of the most
we're full blown
incredible
spoiler.
scenes.
If this is it. We're in full blown spoilers.
Oh, we're in spoilers,
Yeah.
dude. The no sleep till Brooklyn fight scene.
Oh, it's
There's
great.
there's some punches, and the camera moves along the punches in a way that like it was like Spy Kids 3D done correct. Isaiah, my roommate, who I reviewed Black Panther with on this channel, but we talked. We walked away from Ant-Man Quantumanium really not liking that movie.
Yeah.
We walked away from this one saying Isaiah's exact words were, I think this is what Ant-Man and the Quantumanium wanted to be.
Yeah.
Something about like that. That was like the exact phrasing that he had for it.
You could see Ant-Man and Quantumania was so rushed that, like, with the CG. It's like night and day, the CG. Because that fight sequence in particular, you could tell that it's one shot, but it's also CG. You could tell.
Yeah.
Half the characters in it are CG. But unless you're literally looking for problems with the CG, it just flows so well. You don't pick up on it, stuff like that.
Agreed.
It looked incredible. It looked astoundingly incredible. And is it James Gunn? Is it Marvel giving more time? I don't think Marvel will ever give the amount of time they gave James Gunn because they fired him and they had to make amends, honestly. So a lot of the creative license.
I disagree with that, actually. I do.
Hmm.
Because they could have easily shoved this out 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, they could have front loaded it and whatever. Because you're right, they fired him. They fired him.
Which
and
that's why they gave him more time.
Well,
Because he pushed his release. I think he talks about that, and maybe it was some interview like a year ago. But he talks about the time span of like when they wanted Guardians to come out versus when it was. He made it clear he needed to finish out his DC projects, but the whole time he was working on his DC projects, underlying he was working on Guardians. And
that's true, but this is still Disney. They could have been like, you have the job back, and we want this for 2021 December.
Right. Or they went, you know what? No job for you. Taika Waititi is our new golden boy. He's going to do Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Hey,
have you seen what he's doing?
God, that didn't happen.
It's amazing.
It was I don't know if you guys remember, like when he got fired, it was a whole mutiny. Like the reason Dave Bautista will never be in another movie isn't just because he loves James Gunn. It's because he said, "I'm only doing this for James Gunn. I hate Disney." Like he was the one. He was the most outspoken. I mean, he went on Kimmel. He went on like actual talk shows and said, screw you guys. James Gunn's my guy. How dare you fire him over nothing? He's an incredible stand-up guy. F you, I will not do this movie. I mean, they all like signed I think all the cast came together and signed that they were against this. I know Bautista wouldn't have even done the movie had James Gunn not been able to do what he wanted to do.
I'm just saying, like, I agree. Like, we don't know if it was Disney, because I mean, I don't even know at this point what the original release date of Guardians.
No, me either.
Yeah, I kind of want to
Google
Google
it.
I'm
even like hearing the talk
It was a
about,
while ago, but I'm
it took
wondering
or
if the
anything.
extra time that was given to it is because of the new direction. Like,
Yeah.
they started to see the writing on the wall.
Of like how crappy things are.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my God, like give him more time. I mean, the real thing is I'm hopeful that this is I'm hopeful that everybody learns the right lessons from this movie, where like it took its time. It is self-contained, but also just contributes to the larger universe. And also it isn't it isn't slipshod. They take, they work hard on all the elements that matter the most, and then make sure something comes out. The writer's strike could be a great blessing for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where they're like, all right, so you know how we were really gonna like scale down on what's coming out? We're gonna scale down like to the point where next year there'll be no Marvel movies, and the following year we're gonna come back in a big bad way when the writer's strike is resolved and everyone's getting more money, and hopefully we'll have better scripts and better projects that we have to like apportion out.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening, but like that'd be really nice if it did.
Late 2021, early 2022 is what
Was
I
it the
just read.
first thing? Because I was like, I can't find any official announcement of the time frame. So I think, if
Yeah.
anything, it was just in passing of one of those. Here's the
Yeah.
boards. So,
Right.
Yeah, it was one of the here's the boards thing. And when James Gunn was asked on Twitter, it was he said initially it was the first thing he was saying was end of 2021, and then he was like a little bit after 2022, but we got it a year plus later.
Well,
Years
and that's
later.
more my point. Was this
Yeah.
year given because they decided to really make sure it's solidified and it looks good and it looks good? We're gonna let it take its
No.
time, or was
No.
this time given because of the issues with James Gunn, or what was like we
Oh,
don't
yeah.
know what caused these delays, and I think I don't want to harp on this too much more because we got to get more to the movie because I feel like we're just kind of going back and forth and talking in circles now. But I think what it boils down to is we can all agree, regardless of the extra time being given because of the firing or because of COVID or because of
Right.
them deciding to push it out, it is obvious that it helped, that it
Yes.
made this movie good.
Yes.
Also, the creative synergy between writer, director, and vision.
Mhm.
I recently heard from an insider that the Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium script was rewritten 30 times. 30 studio rewrites,
Oof.
which that's really harsh. This
That's too
doesn't
many.
for 1 second. I couldn't name one plot point in this movie that's like, oh well, they definitely like shoehorn this the MCU thing. Like,
No.
where's the Kang reference, right? Oh, he none of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not to say that I love I'm not one of those people who complain when Marvel does what Marvel does best, where it's building the greater universe continuity.
Yeah.
But there's something about how cohesive this narrative is in its direction and its writing and its cast and its journeys that just so incredible. I walked out of this movie. I was lucky enough to see it a week early, and the whole week since then, I've been listening to the soundtrack, excited to see it again, and I saw it again on opening night because I was so obsessed with this movie, and I've been dying to talk to people about it without spoiling.
It's
it for
funny
them.
because I hit him up this morning because our new editor, he hasn't had any practice of 3 cameras. So I was like, Hudson, if you don't want to be on today, is there anything? And he's like, I want to talk Guardians. I was looking forward to talk Guardians. And I was like, I'm not taking that away from Hudson.
Yeah,
I want to bring that up though, because I find this to be one of the funnier parts, the cohesion with this. So one thing I've noticed when I put out my little Twitter review of the movie, people people are looking for excuses to like this movie. So
to like it or to not like it?
To like it. So
Okay.
we're not stupid. It's become the popular thing to hate on superhero movies and TV shows, and primarily the MCU. And a lot of the people that are responding are like, "Oh, I loved it, but this is a fluke. This is a thing. This is good because of James Gunn and he's leaving." They're all looking for reasons to like it. But one of the ones I found to be the funniest was a guy tweeted me about an hour or two ago. And he just said that he found what he thinks is great about it is that it's not trying to connect things like Quantum Mania.
Okay.
And I literally responded with, what about the connections to Endgame, Infinity War, the Christmas special? Like one of the core plot points is that Gamora is time displaced or from another dimension. Like Quill's like, I don't even fully know where she came from.
My favorite monologue is him in the elevator with Nebula, Gamora, and the alien girl, Ura.
Yeah,
and he's
Ura.
like, I'm just an idiot dude from Earth who fell in love with a space woman, and then she died because her dad threw her off a magic cliff. Everyone else stayed dead. She came back. I don't know. Maybe it was the magic cliff. I'm just some dumbass from Earth, and it's so good. And then Nebula's like, she skipped a lot of important points, but yeah, that's the gist of it. And I was like, why is that so incredible? I love it so much.
But I wanted to bring this up because you also brought up the fact about the connections and things like that.
Right.
I feel this movie does the connections the way it should be done. Because other movies within the MCU recently have been doing what you said. By the way, Kang's a thing.
Yeah.
Like that. Well, this is more subtle. Like if you're not really watching for the connections, they just feel natural, which is how these connections should feel. And that's how the MCU started with. Oh, the Captain America shield, that's just behind Tony Stark. That's
right.
He's not going to pick it up and be like, by the way.
Well,
Captain America's a thing, and I'm looking for him.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. And if you do this whole movie, right, and then you say, and I'm not a comic book guy, so I'm sorry if this is blasphemous, but you say Kang is a variant of like fucking or
High
not Kang.
Evolutionary?
If High Evolutionary is a variant of Kang, you could throw that in there, and as a movie viewer, I wouldn't complain if you have him be who he is the whole movie, and he's this incredible villain with this maniacal thing. He's a genius. He's this, he's that, and then you could throw that in there. There's your connection. I wouldn't hate that at all, and there's your connection to the greater villain seed thing building. But I would not hate that in the slightest. Versus a thing where it's like, yeah, no, I mean, you don't necessarily need it.
I complicated. I liked all the villains. Like, I like the fact that we have some villains that are really awesome, and the High Evolutionary is a really crappy villain in the comics. So it's really cool to see them actually like make him interesting and cool, or cool in as much as he's formidable. He's a character that we actually want to see defeated. We care about him. It's not like Ronan the Accuser when he's like, "I'm gonna break Xandar," and you're like, "Oh, okay. Oh no, I hope he doesn't." You know?
Yeah, or even Ego. He's a whole planet played by Kurt Russell.
Well, and Chuck Moody plays it like tremendously, and I think that it's the movement. It's the fact that when he delivers a line, I feel like Marvel villains and villains in comics, they're like, I need to have this stoic, my body is still delivery. Every time he gave like a maniacal rant, he like squats a little bit. He's like, what are you saying to me? Are you stupid? And he's like jumping around a little bit. He's still menacing.
You're right. His body language was incredible. You could see the maniacal, the insanity in him.
He was Myrn in Peacemaker. That's where Gunn found him. He found him doing a DC project, and then he actually filmed his audition. DC helped him film his audition for Marvel there, and then they paid the favor back later when they filmed the Ezra Miller, Jason Momoa scenes at Marvel on the Guardian set for the end of Peacemaker, so they made up for it. But wow, he's one of my and it's so hard to say there's like a standout performance in this because there isn't, because everyone came at this with their best foot forward. No one phoned in their performance. Not even the James Gunn and friends, like all of his friends in it. They all had like Nathan Fillion's performance. Oh, was he's great. So funny. The moment they give him a time, like they really focus on his face being angry and disgusted at a stupid friend, and it's so funny that way where he's just like.
I want to bring that up real quick. Yeah, so let's talk. Hudson, you are all over the place today. I love it. No, it's great.
I've been waiting for this for like a week and a half.
Nathan Fillion. First off, I loved the fact that we had such. There's a couple minor plot beats that kind of came full circle. Nathan Fillion, I feel, is one of them, but one that I really loved that kind of came full circle that I didn't expect to do it was Kraglin in Cosmo.
I felt that coming. I felt that coming a mile away, where he's like, you know, once Cosmo kept bringing it up, like, "Hey, take it back. It really hurts my feelings." I'm like, all right, we're gonna get a moment like this, which is fine, because like. One of the biggest, this is going to seem unconnected, but I promise it is. One of the biggest compliments that a lot of people were giving the Dungeons and Dragons movie is that, like, people were like, "This is amazing," and it's like, it's not amazing, it's competent. It's just that it hasn't been for a while from these kinds of movies. Like a movie where it's like, oh, look, a fully CG character, it must be dog shit. It's like, oh no, actually, this is well written, and at the very least, like a thing that's brought up here pays off over here. You know, like a story, like a bedtime story or a movie. And with this, the same thing happens, where it's like, we set up this thing over here, and not just like, we set up this thing 15 years ago, and we're paying it off in one line over here. No. It's like, we set up this thing in our story, this is a third chapter in a trilogy, and it's a beginning, middle, and end of its own story within itself, like a movie should be. Kraglin's one of those things where, you know, it carries over. The first movie, you know, it was just, I'm putting my brother in the movie because nobody's hiring Kirk from Gilmore Girls. Second movie, they're like, hey, I think we could do something with this and give my brother some more work. Third movie is people like Kraglin. Here's his origin, or here's his story anyway. It's like, oh, that's nice. People,
the discourse complaining about that's one of the harshest things. Before the movie ever came out, it was after I'd already seen it, but before it was out, people on Twitter were like, "Oh my God, James Gunn's wife is in it." First of all, Jennifer Holland is an incredible actress. Yeah, she's actually so talented. Second of all, she plays the most minor character in
she's
this.
So unimportant.
And she's actually hilarious in it when she gets shot in the leg and starts wailing. Like, instead of the MC reaction, like,
oh, that was her?
Leg. Yeah, that was her.
I didn't realize that was Harcourt from
Yeah. Dude, and that was her. She has a little speaking orb thing, and it's really cool. And then they shoot her in the leg, and and they have her eating a rat and laughing really hard when Adam Warlock burns the guy alive. And that's
Yeah.
Okay, I loved that scene where
yeah,
Adam
it
Warlock,
was
she's
so
like,
funny.
show him we mean business. And he's like, boom!
Classic.
And then the
Classic
sad
joke in this.
animal is like, well, I feel bad now. I
don't like the way this makes me feel. And then Nathan Fillion lined over, don't worry, I have one of those too. Killed me. The delivery on that was so good. And a lot of people are saying recency bias was going to take up a lot of this movie. People are going to love it a lot initially, and they're going to have criticisms in a few months.
Right.
I don't think I'm gonna be one of those people. And I've never actually been a big Guardians fan. I watched the movies and I thought the music was good. I walked out of Guardians 2, and my exact words were, and I remember this vividly, where I was like, oh, that was good. Okay. Like, I don't really care though. That was good though.
Yeah.
That was it. I never thought about watching it again. This movie, I've already seen it again. I probably want to see it 2 or 3 more times in the next year. So much of it, the emotional through line of the movie.
Yeah.
Peter Quill is closing, Rocket's closing, Nebula has one of the most sleeper, incredible storylines in it, and then the way they handled Gamora was, I agree. I finally understood that Gamora died. Like, I feel like Endgame doesn't make me feel like I've lost Gamora. Like, Infinity War and Endgame doesn't make me feel like I lost it because they gave us new Gamora. This movie makes me grieve a character that my brain, it just hadn't clicked in my brain that character had died.
Right.
I was like, why is Peter moping? You got another hot green lady running around already, man. Just go schmooze her.
It's really cool how Gamora has been able, good for Zoe Saldana. She gets to play 2 versions of the same character. It's so rare to get to do that without some kind of chicanery. There's a whole movie where she gets to redo Gamora, just completely start over again, which is so cool. And a lot of us who knew who Gamora was before the movies were like, deadliest woman in the galaxy, huh? She sure cries a lot. This one, she gets to be that. She finally gets to be the scary badass warrior woman that they said she was going to be, the one that they said she was in the beginning of Guardians. That is we gotta save people. The one who says we gotta save people the most is the deadliest woman in the galaxy, raised by Thanos. And it's oh, okay. No, by the way, no complaints. I liked and it was one of those things where it's oh, this is like Adam Warlock. This ain't Adam Warlock. But whatever.
I was
maybe
having
one
an
day he
argument
will
with
be.
actually Rob from Comics Explained, because I was
that makes sense, because Rob would love Adam Warlock and was
in the art he brought up that it is how Adam Warlock was when he first got introduced, as opposed to what he became.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
Because I saw this movie with Rob. For those people who think that I'm apparently having a big fight with Rob, we saw this together.
You're not having a fight with Rob? Whoa.
I knew it.
And he brought that up. He wasn't a fan of how they handled Adam Warlock, but he's like, well, when he first showed up, he was kidnapping women to be his cave women wives and stuff. And I'm like, I don't remember that about Adam Warlock, but I ain't gonna question you about it.
Yeah.
No, true.
Yeah. And I have no background on Adam Warlock. I literally I've never read a single comic book with him in it. I don't think that's a stretch, but I don't think I have. So for me, it was Will Poulter being funny and hilarious, and Jack being Mr. Eyebrows, and I laughed every time he was on screen, being funny. His dialogue was written really, really well. I think that it's MCU humor, but I love it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I love it. And people can complain, oh man, that emotional beat, you really wanted to ruin it with Adam Warlock talking about he just boiled a man alive. No, seriously. I was like, dude, that's hilarious.
Nobody cared about that character.
No, well, and they made sure of that. I cared more about the pet. And then I was actually following that movie with the pet. And Adam Warlock is now taking care of this pet. And I'm like,
yeah,
I'm on board. I don't know what's going to happen, but you better not kill that pet.
It feels like such an ad lib. I don't like the way this makes me feel. I don't think I like how this feels. It has to be an ad lib, but it's so good. There's a lot of ad libs in this movie, by the way, if you guys picked up on the first F word in an MCU movie.
Yeah.
Sal, you were saying before I cut you off, and then Hassan derailed everything again. Hassan.
I'm just happy with how it turned out. I'm happy with how it turned out and how it was consistent with itself. It consistent with itself without also. It delivered on the premise that it reminded me of Guardians 1, when people were excited about the MCU, when the MCU was building things, when anything could happen, and when we could be surprised by how competently made these movies could be. And not like they were bad before Guardians, but rather that Guardians was just such a sleeper hit. It was such a surprise for people that wow, this was funny and potent, and it hurt. so much of it was strong. I'm just happy that it was consistently like that. I have no complaints about the movie. My concern is that like this will be kind of like this will skew the results for the MCU because it's like what's been the best thing from the MCU so far in the last 2 to 3 years? It's like mostly spider related, and I'm kind of like Guardians 3 is head and shoulders above most of the things that they've made, from Disney Plus shows to movies, not including, of course, present company. We know what we're talking about. But like,
I like the Turtles.
Yeah, exactly. But the question will be like, will the right lessons be learned? Will the right talent be tapped? Because like, the folk who made Ant-Man 3, not the right talent. Maybe you might want to go back to the drawing board with Kang Dynasty since you're still writing Blade. And that was supposed to come out. You know what I mean? Like,
no way they're still writing Blade. They're not.
They
working.
Can't right now. There's no WGA. There's no.
No one's writing.
No one's making anything right now.
Yeah.
And that like Blade, if it took 30 tries to get Ant-Man 3, Blade's been 150 scripts, and it's like that's so. I'm just concerned for the MCU, and this does not help me because I'm like, well, one of your best directors is going out the door now, and he he had no vested interest in like setting anything up. It wasn't like he was like, you know what, I'll throw you a bone. Let me set up like this whole thing. The only thing he did was, well, spoilers, he created a new Guardians, which they may or may not ever pay off.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to. I think this is going to be just, hey, the Guardians are off doing their own thing, but we might hear from Rocket eventually. But I want to bring this back. I want to talk about what are the things that I really enjoy. I'm trying to hit as many of the beats as I can.
Sure, yeah.
And Hudson is, I love it. I love the enthusiasm. I really do. But you're so enthusiastic, I can't get in. You are challenging me as the host of this particular episode.
That's true.
It's what I've been building towards, Benny.
What did
I took
you guys
my month
feel
off to retain
about
power.
and I'll start with Sal this time, Hudson.
Okay,
so hold off.
We'll keep it short.
The Drax and Mantis arc that pretty much came out of 2 into the Christmas special. And really, like, I never thought we'd get a payoff about Drax being dumb and Mantis also kind of being dumb. I just figured comic relief.
Yeah.
I did not expect a payoff to come out of those characters in the way that it did.
No, well, it was consistent with those characters, but also consistently surprising, heartbreaking, because he's like, oh, you guys like think I'm an idiot, and then she
like it finally
takes it away from him, and it's like, oh my god, like he has to live, like we have to live with the fact that we've broken. How many times has this happened?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, because she did it without even thinking about it. How many times have we broken Drax and she just wipes him clean?
It's one of the funniest beats in the whole movie. It's like a really good confronting scene because Nebula is being kind of a douche the whole time.
Yeah.
And then immediately, not undercut, elevated by forget. Look at the way I use my big arms to open that door. You'd be lucky to have it without me.
Yeah.
God, I laughed so hard both times I watched that.
Yeah, that broke my heart. I was like, that's deep.
It's more the ramifications of what that means as opposed to, like, wait, so has Mantis been wiping his, because she's with them all the time. How many times did he realize this?
Yeah.
He should never know it for sure. Drax can't handle that information.
Well, I was expecting there to be a reveal that he's like, I've never forgotten. Like, it doesn't work on me. And it's like, well.
But I also loved the arc that they took with Mantis, who I thought was going to be more of a throwaway character after Guardians 2.
Yeah.
And then between the Christmas special, but I'm saying like they really elevated her in the Christmas special, and then she maintained that level of like prominence on the team.
Well, I love how in the Christmas special they were like big reveal with Mantis and Quill, and then in the third movie they're like, hey, remember that reveal? He's like, who cares? And I'm like, oh, I guess nobody. I guess the Christmas special was just a bunch of crap.
Yeah, I guess it emotionally affected us for the first time in years since COVID, and it really just for nothing.
Exactly. Like, oh, okay.
Their dialogue is so tremendous in this movie, and also just like Infinity War and Endgame. I'm more excited than ever to rewatch that quarter of the MCU, my Guardians quarter, because I want to watch every movie with all of them in it together again. Yes. I feel like now that we know Rocket's backstory, I watched a monologue from Guardians 1 where he goes, I didn't ask to be ripped apart and put back together, like whatever. And it's just, and now you know what he's talking about when he says that. And he's like, I'm not this thing. She called me vermin. And it's like, Jesus. Yeah, he's not this thing. But specifically Mantis and Drax. they're
We'll get to Rocket next. We'll get to Rocket.
yeah,
next.
we'll get to Rocket next. I just wanted to touch on that, but like that Mantis and Drax, it is so funny, but it's the way that they communicate. And I also there's this childlike innocence to those characters. People might criticize it for being dumb humor or something like that. I would entirely argue the opposite. I love the moment where he's getting on the bike and he goes, "Well, I'll just take you back to the ship. The ship that's right there."
Yeah, I love that.
And it's just like they're always outsmarting each other, but they're
Exactly.
not. They're very competent. They are both. Mantis tames a freaking battery-eating sun-eater monster, and Drax is the father to all these people. And James Gunn said on Twitter like yesterday that he knows that language because it's the language his kids spoke. What?
No,
I don't know what
okay.
that means, man. I don't understand that, but that's incredible and adorable.
Well,
And-
Drax has kids that were killed. That's why he's hunting.
Well, no, I
Thanos
knew
in the
that
comics,
part, but the fact that the kids are this alien race that the High Evolutionary created speaks the same language as Drax kids is. Maybe it's just like alien kid language. That could
Right.
be what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
Like,
that, but that,
Yeah.
well, and maybe I just assume it's just like speaking gibberish like kids speak. But I still loved that scene with Drax where Nebula's like, "You could talk to them? You never asked." Like,
Why did you never say anything? You never asked me. Karen Gillian's line deliveries against
Yeah.
Drax and Mantis were so good the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh man, you
So
couldn't have
let's
told me
talk
Guardians
about-
1 she was going to be that.
Let's talk
Yeah.
about Rocket. I was a little shocked when he was off the table for most of the movie, only to come back in the ending. But they still managed to build a lot up with him, giving that backstory.
Yeah,
And
true.
I'll admit, I got a little misty-eyed with his whole segment because if you read the comics, you knew what was coming, and if you're just watching the movie, you knew what was coming as they were
Right.
heavily implying it. It was such a sad moment, and they made the characters that he teamed up with so much more adorable and freakily sad. Like Floor was freaky.
Oh,
But
yeah.
awesome at the same time. Like,
Yeah. No, that was
reminding me of like the baby head in Toy Story.
I think
as
that's
a
exactly. I
kid.
think that's what everyone brought that up from the first time I saw the movie to seeing it with my friends. They all had the exact same thing of like it's like the Sid's toy spider leg baby doll, all of
Yeah.
them. But it had the cutest little voice, and then like it's the floor teeth rocket go now, floor teeth rocket go
Ugh.
now. That dialogue, I was sobbing, I
Yeah.
was crying.
Yeah.
Little when he's the little rocket and he just had surgery done on him and he goes his first word hurt,
Oh,
dude. I needed
It was
a
such
minute
a
after that.
sad backstory. And for a character who's pretty much removed from the team for most of the movie,
yeah.
we still felt his presence there
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything going on. And that's what I loved about the way they did Rocket in this whole movie, only to have him come back in the ending.
Yeah.
And the first thing he's like, we got to go save our friends. Like,
Yeah.
that's
Right.
just Rocket. He just,
Well, and I for a while part of the movie was like, oh man, I really hope they bring him back sooner because I'm scared he's just not going to be in the movie. And then my brain like switched to flips like, no, he's in this movie. This movie, like the backstory is incredible. The texture that we're being given here is incredible, and I think they brought him back right before the final act. So it's not even like the end of the movie is in like the last 10 minutes. Like he's there for a huge portion of the back of the movie, doing
Exactly.
fight scenes, doing monologues, having character moments. I'm Rocket Raccoon. Oh, that's a line. That I don't.
Yeah.
Why did I want that
I like-
so bad?
I didn't know we needed this, but I loved the reveal that he is a raccoon. Like,
Oh, we knew. My thing
we
was,
knew.
like,
We all
my
knew. But
my
it was at that
confusion
moment
was
that I
like,
realized he
You've
didn't
lived
know.
on Earth for 5 years and you've never heard of raccoons before?
He was just in denial.
Yeah,
he was
right.
in
He
denial at
until he
everything
saw the
people called
sign,
him.
I am a raccoon.
Yeah.
Even Lila in the afterlife is hugging him, and she's like, "Sweet little raccoon." The last thing he says to her, "I'm not a raccoon." And then he gets brought back to life,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he gets revived.
I guess that's really what it is, right? He knows he's a raccoon, but he's like
Yeah.
he's been I am better. I'm more than that. I'm better
Yeah.
than that. And then he sees it and it reminds him, and he's like, okay, yeah, no, you know what? I'm gonna own it. This is where I come from. Like it was a beautiful moment. Great acting from everybody. Yeah, the Rocket stuff was all gold. Just
Oh, yeah,
gold,
100%.
heartrending, amazing.
Bradley
stuff.
Cooper get an Oscar for that voice performance. Are you
Yeah,
Yeah, good.
it
Good
was-
work.
It's an incredible vocal performance. Everything from like Baby Rocket to the emotion through every piece of dialogue is
Yep.
insane. And then the physicality of it, Sean Gunn, for everyone who
Yeah.
hates James Gunn and Friends, Sean Gunn did the movement on that. He's been the mocap actor for Rocket since at least Guardians 2.
Yeah, at least
Incredible.
I think one. I think he's
Maybe
he-
one?
I think
Yeah.
he was there
Yeah.
one. Next one I want to bring up, and this is what I feel is the only sore point in the movie, is Groot.
Mm.
Because Groot didn't get any true development throughout this movie, because I think like Baby Groot was just more of a meme and funny haha character on the team, and then Teenage Groot was just kind of like tucked away, and I think
I'll take the opposition on this one too.
Yeah. Groot gets moments in all of them. Like the first movie, first Guardians, Groot is established. You don't get a lot of the explanation for who Groot is as a character in the movie. The meta text, usually from interviews and stuff, you'll find out like, oh, like they treated Groot like a pet in the first movie, so that version of Groot is simpler and more like a dog. Whereas like this Groot was raised by a family and has like emotions and grows into a person. Whereas like in the second one, Groot, like baby Groot up to Endgame, we get a lot of Groot and we get a lot of like development of adolescent Groot. That Groot went through the ringer. He had a family. He was raised by these people. He lost that family. He died. He got a chance to try and like get revenge for the galaxy by becoming Stormbreaker. You know, like there's a lot of stuff for Groot to do. This is just this is what he became. He's Swole Groot, who I don't really like the design for, but until the post-credit scene, we're like, hey, that's Groot, all right.
Oh yeah, I like that
colossal
the post-credit scene.
Yeah.
I did like where it went, where he's like Hulk Groot.
Yeah.
And, I mean, he got the good fight sequence with Peter and the top of the ship where they jumped out. We did the
that was a
wing
great
Groot.
moment. When
I really liked Groot in this movie, and I think it was James Gunn described him as this is right after college age Groot, ready to go out and take on the world, is how he would say like where he is in his development. Right. And I think it's there. I mean, he's like, did that look cool? Is a lot of his dialogue, but he can't, like when he's a little head, he's going on a check on Drax. Obviously, he's a nonverbal character for us, the audience, up until the last scene. Where
I have a theory on that. I want to go into that specifically.
Well, they confirmed what it was.
Benny, tell us what your theory was.
Okay. My theory was, because we were talking about it in the car on the way back, and I was saying I felt it was because of what happened with Gamora. The more you hear Groot, the more you understand him. So I felt that the last scene was James Gunn being like, you've all heard Groot enough that you can understand him finally.
James Gunn said it was exactly that. He confirmed that it was your connection with Groot. The audience is finally so connected with him that they get to hear him. He's saying, I am Groot. But
right, and that's what I figured, because like the reason we talked about in the car was Natalie was like, why didn't anyone react to him saying something? I'm like, because they've always understood him. Right. So I feel that was for us, the viewer. 3 movies in, we understand Groot finally.
Yeah, which would be cool if they ever continue that, where we'll be able to hear Groot from now on. Like maybe Vin Diesel will actually be able to say stuff. But good stuff overall. Yeah.
I really liked him. So I'm definitely, and I even like his design it's funny, obviously. And then there was some like little theory videos and things going around that like his physique is based on like how he was raised, and like one of the people that were in his life through a lot of his teenage development was Thor.
Right.
He's a big old swole guy. So when he like is growing as a tree, he's like, I kind of want to look like Uncle Thor. Like I kind of want to look like this jacked, ripped dude. And then the colossal Groot at the end is really, really cool. But he has some incredible moments, and like I
feel like Colossal Groot was a callback to his original design in Planet X before he became anybody. He was just a monster.
That's why he's that color. Yeah.
Well, and I love the narrative that this Groot. People really complained. I tweeted about this. They're like, biggest downgrade I've ever seen. It's a picture of original Groot to Swole Groot, to which I was like, dude, that's like taking a picture of like a parent and then their child. Biggest downgrade ever. They're different characters, dude. Get over it. That is his son. That's his son. It's not the same thing. James Gunn confirmed that time and time again. We lost that first Groot. That first Groot died. And that's very sad. And this new Groot is just a different little dude. And I love this new Groot. He's awesome.
Yeah.
So
I think that's all the core characters. I want to double back on.
We didn't do Peter, Quill, or Nebula. We didn't do Quill or Nebula.
Oh well, we did talk about Nebula. We brought up Nebula.
And we brought up Nebula. We didn't talk about her very much.
We'll talk about Nebula then, real quick. This is the movie where I mean, I know she was into, but this is the one where she's really like on the team and she's just getting along and she's not being combative beyond. I'm just a jerk. Right. I really liked this development and this like her portrayal in this entire movie. Also loved that new arm.
The like destroyer arm, right? That's like that's the Asgardian tech, isn't it?
No,
the
Rocket
destroyer from the first one, the first Thor movie.
Yeah, no, Rocket made it for her.
Oh, that's awesome. He probably stole it from an Asgardian.
It's sweet. It's like, it's like this buildup because Rocket and Groot are the survivors after the snap. So Rocket and Groot Rocket and Nebula have like a really strong connection with each other over 5 years.
Yeah.
So like when Rocket comes out of the coma or whatever, the first thing he asks is where Nebula is, because like she's basically his sister.
Okay, that's what I thought the first time. It's
Yeah.
because the thing's going on behind him. He goes,
Yeah,
"Where's
that's true.
Nebula?"
He
Because
says
they-
that in the movie. He's
but-
like, because Peter's like, what do you mean? Like Nebula, she's somewhere. I haven't found
But
her
to
yet.
your
And he's
credit,
like, no,
Sal-
right there. Where is she?
Yeah, no.
But to your credit, that's why Nebula has this concussive emotional reaction to like, Rocket?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
and it's so sweet from a character that is so stoic.
So
like,
stoic, yeah.
yeah,
I
she
love
calls
that.
me Starlord when she's mad at me. Like that character being so angry the whole time.
Yeah.
to
They've all
just
gotten
like
to
her
know
soft
each other
spot.
better now. It's
Exactly.
the time
Well-
in between them all sitting in nowhere. Like she's
Nebula-
the one that is carrying him in the opening. She's the one that
That's true.
picks him up.
Yeah.
Nebula
carries
and
Quill.
Rocket spent equal time being Avengers to being Guardians.
That's right.
Actually. They spent 5 years doing both things because of time skips and whatever.
Yeah.
But they have this bond, and they bonded over the loss of everyone they loved. And then they had the opportunity to have them all back. So the idea of one of them losing each other, I'm really thankful this movie ended without the loss of either of them
Oh.
because I need them to be happy. And I
Yeah.
think they are now.
So,
No, I'm
so
thrilled that
moving
nobody
over
died.
to Quill, I thought you got any more you want to add to Nebula, Sal?
Nah.
Okay.
No.
Quill, I was like, are we really gonna kill him at the ending? And then when they
Yeah.
did the like bloated face,
Oh
they're
my
not gonna
god.
kill
I
him.
was like, oh wow, okay,
Oh.
yeah. I mean, he's pretty much gone everywhere we want to see with him, so that's fine if they want to kill him off now.
I just
Seems
thought it'd be
pretty-
the weirdest
seems
way to
pretty
kill
mean.
him. No
Yeah,
hype,
same.
no nothing. Just
Just,
Yeah.
oh, I forgot my Walkman. Oops, I died.
yeah, exactly.
Not even his Walkman.
No, I know,
his
it's a Zune.
That's
Right, like-
worse. If it was a
Yeah.
Walkman, it's a vintage piece of tech. A Zune you can buy anywhere and no one buys.
Yeah, you could.
And
Get
I love the scene composition for Adam Warlock just doing the hand of God thing. Where it's just
Yeah. stuff.
Yeah. I love Peter's storyline in this movie.
Yep.
I think that it's the payoff of all these movies. I mean, Gamora has this incredible piece of dialogue at him where she's like, "What's so broken in you that you need to fix yourself with me?"
Mhm.
Wow. I mean, it's heavy. It's heavy
Yeah.
that the loss of the other Gamora, like getting her back isn't going to fix him. He
Right.
needs to figure his shit out. And he needs to go to Earth, confront his family. Because that was the thing that all of us were thinking when we were watching Endgame. Like, oh, he's finally back on Earth. It's going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And then they up and they leave.
Yeah,
And this
he
is the
just runs
payoff of
off.
that. Is
That's
that
right.
he's kind of an idiot. And he thought that his grandfather was like, get out of here. He's not, he was protecting him, even all the way
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
And that moment is really, really beautiful. And I'm
Yeah.
glad like Starlord is going to come back, which is good. I'm more than okay with that. You know, he's maybe we'll get the Kitty Pryde. I think Kitty Pryde and Starlord at some point, right? That's a
Mhm.
couple in comics. Maybe we'll get that.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Once that came up on the screen, the legendary Starlord will return. All I could think of was Thor in Thor 4, where they were like, and Thor will return, where both Chris's are like, we will.
I guess we're coming back. Yeah.
Well, I think there's more leading towards the concept of
Secret
the
Wars or
Secret
something.
Wars. Yeah, like
Yeah.
the
Right.
and Pratt.
Yeah, they'll all be back. I mean,
Yeah, they
come
will
on.
be for sure. For the kind of bag they're gonna shell out for that movie. When I was with Chris Pratt before the movie came out, he did say that he was coming back, like very loosely.
Oh,
But it's
okay.
because I was in a 20-minute conversation where he definitely was supposed to say things, and he goes, "Yeah, but it'll be weird being the guy without James." But and I was like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
you
you
live?
were with
You
you didn't
live?
have James. James didn't direct him in Endgame
"No."
yeah.
or
And
Infinity
so
War. I should say.
I actually wanted to talk about that. So we got a lot more clarity on what James Gunn was privy to, what pivots he had to make because of what was happening through Infinity War and Endgame. He had no editorial on those decisions. That was all the Russo brothers. The Russo brothers did call to say, hey, we're thinking about doing this with Nebula. And
Right.
the reason it worked so well is because James intended to kill Nebula in Guardians Volume 2 because he knew Zoe Saldana only wanted to be in the movie so much. But
You mean, Gamora.
yeah, Gamora only wanted to be in the movie so much, so he intended to kill her in Guardians Volume 2, but he gave Michael Rooker, he gave Yondu that ending, and he didn't feel like tacking on would make sense. So when the Russos called and said, hey, we're thinking we want to kill Gamora, he was like, yeah, do it. This works perfectly. And then it actually worked out well for his original plan. So it's a question of like, how much did that narrative change from these movies, because they're supposed to be, made so close to each other? It didn't. And it's also like a real hat tip to the Russo brothers because they encapsulated the style of Gunn without copying him
They did
in
yeah.
a really beautiful way. If Gunn wasn't there to help with any of that stuff, which confirmed he wasn't. It was
Yeah.
their project. He had nothing to do with any of that. He
I
said
think
that
he picked Rubber Band Man. I think like the song
Yeah.
that they play, like he's like, yeah, do that one.
Yeah.
But it's Infinity War. I know Benny's not a big fan, but like the
Oh, I love the movie. What the? Don't you do this to me?
but Infinity War is so incredible in how easily it just blended into the next franchise while telling one story. I know we're talking about Endgame, but like, just hey,
Well,
by the way, like it was Guardians 2.5 is Infinity War. Like,
yeah,
absolutely.
Well, that's my argument, that when people are saying this doesn't have any continuity or connection to the rest of the MCU, I'm like, the whole concept of Gamora
is all from another movie. It doesn't
Yes,
happen in
yeah.
any Guardian movie.
It didn't happen in a Guardian. This whole Gamora, if you didn't see Infinity War and Endgame, your only idea of what happened, it finally is explained in that elevator scene.
Right.
Because before then, they're like, it's not the same Gamora.
Everybody else
That's all
back.
they say.
I don't know why she stayed.
Yeah. Well,
Talk to the magic cliff.
If you didn't see those movies, you don't know who they are. You don't know who Thanos is. You know, you mean the guy that talked to Ronan in that one movie? Like, that's it.
Yeah. And it's not a standalone movie for that purpose. It's a movie in a trilogy that's in a 6-movie series. It's in a saga. Also, James Gunn said that scene where Quill shoots Gamora and it's bubbles, he said he would have killed Gamora. He said I would not have hesitated to have Quill shoot a gun and kill Gamora in that moment where Thanos is using like the reality stone to bend everything happening in nowhere during that thing. That was the only other thing. But yeah, it all paid off to this ending. And then like I love seeing Gamora with the Ravengers and them being happy. I don't know. I didn't know I needed that till I saw it.
Right.
I agree with you on that, because I like the fact that Gamora, who's pretty much looking for a family, is not just going to run back to the Guardians. That Quill is not going to get this picture perfect ending that he thinks he needs. Instead, Gamora is going to get what she needs. Yes. Which is an acceptance and a family and something that isn't Thanos or the Guardians, this other thing. Which I also love the fact that led to Quill finally saying, I need to go fix myself.
Exactly. Love it.
The moment where he's like, hey, I think I need to get everyone. We need to talk. Oh, it was really good because you didn't know what he was going to say next, other than like he was probably leaving. And that scene, like I was crying during the scene where they're all like separating. Even the Drax jokes can't undercut how sad it is. Drax, like Mantis waving at Drax during one of the best needle drops out of nowhere. You could never tell me I was gonna love Florence and the Machine as much as I love Florence and the Machine through that scene. But she's like waving and then just badass calls the freaking battery eaters and walks off. And Drax, like Dave Bautista's crying, and I love it. You see tears so much more in this movie than I think you see other places, where it's like always just like, and they're like half wiping a tear, but you just let tears roll down faces, not for death, but for just sadness of moving on to the next chapter. Really poignant, really beautiful. We didn't need to kill Drax to discontinue his character.
No,
we just needed to make him a father. Give him a storyline that like, I don't really need to see Dad Drax on. Oh no, maybe
no, I would really rather not. Only because like that seems to be Marvel's death. Like Marvel's like, oh, we're gonna kill off the Hulk. Give him a dad instead. We're gonna kill off Thor's franchise. Give him a dad. Make him a dad. We're gonna kill off Drax.
Make him a father. Dad. Cast his own kids.
Right. Well, we're done with Iron Man. Make him a dad. So that once we know we'll never see Chris Evans again if
if he's a dad, he comes back as a dad.
Yeah. That's so okay.
We're still going. Right? I want to start wrapping this down. I want to whip it down, guys.
Okay? I want to wrap it down for us, guys.
So I want to finally get back to the High Evolutionary and Counter Earth. Now, I can't believe they actually did like Counter Earth.
Like it's their version of Counter Earth, because Counter Earth, like he made it, and I'm like, duh. Like I mean, he did make it in the comics, so yeah,
he did, and it's also in the Spider-Man show.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of the whole time, actually. I was thinking of Mexican Green Goblin and Counter Spider-Man. I was thinking of Peach Mare and Green Goblin the whole time.
I'm sad they blew it up. I'm like,
yeah.
I liked the High Evolutionary's goal was just to get Rocket back. Right? He wasn't trying to conquer the planet, or like he made his own thing, but he wasn't trying to conquer the universe. This wasn't an ego level or Ronin thing. This wasn't Infinity Stones. This was literally just, we're saving our friend. That's the story of this movie.
I loved it.
And they all come together. And we already mentioned the High Evolutionary. The acting was incredible.
So good. Yeah.
It was the best villain we've had in a long time.
Easily. Yeah.
Easily.
I mean, and of course, in Marvel fashion, he's dead as far as we know.
He
goes back a lot. Yeah. But
well, I don't want him to come back. His story was so perfect.
Oh, yeah.
So poignant. This is one of the few villains that I'm like, this is great. I think that if he came back, it would undercut it. What is he going to do next? You know. Plus, there are like 4 High Evolutionary stories, and they're all pretty lame.
Well, because his idea was in that movie, and every time he comes back, it's the same idea.
Exactly. It's so lame.
Well, and this one, Deranged, I think what works about this one is that the idea is lame. What he's talking about is really dumb.
Right.
But he's just his actual motivation is being deranged and wanting Rocket because Rocket is smarter than him.
Yeah.
And he can't get over that. And that's man, the fight scene, him getting his ass whooped. Oh my God, I loved it so much. That was such a good, like, that's a Power Rangers superhero team up, anime level. Boom, we're all getting a hidden moment, and it was so great.
I also loved the fact that his crew even turned on him because he's going crazy. Like, we
Yeah.
don't normally see in these Marvel movies the villains going insane and then the crew being like, okay, hold on, wait, what are we doing? Like,
Right?
so
Yeah,
I
I
like
love it.
that. I like that it wasn't just like, oh, and all of these people agree with him. Like,
Yeah. No, well, usually because they're drones. You know, they're characters like with no faces. They're like, blah, like they just have guns, and
And they weren't. I mean, they weren't much better in this one as far as like the development of the villain. Like his crew is pretty dumb the whole time. Like none of them are particularly interesting. None of them, in my opinion, have like cool designs either. Even like the Hell Spawns are kind of ugly and dumb.
Yeah.
But
I did like the War Pig.
The War Pig was great. War Pig is incredible.
Amazing.
I
That was
take
so
that
great.
back. And it has what is it? Floor's voice. It has the same voice box. It's, we're on the same side, man. What the hell? And it's
That was
really
bizarre.
I got Bebop and Rocksteady vibes from that.
That's exactly
my
right.
wife immediately was like,
we got
"Get
Ninja
with
Turtles
Bebop
the
and
whole
Rocksteady."
time. The first thing that they evolve, my girlfriend goes, Ninja Turtle. And honestly, kind of a good live action Ninja Turtle design, like not far from what would look a lot better than like the Michael Bay Turtles. That's for sure.
Agreed.
That was fun. And High Evolutionary, the physicality is what brought, I think that's what made him incredible. He yells and monologues like every villain does, but he like jumps. He's like skipping and jumping and like squatting, me like, what do you mean? And then he's like shaking people and being weird
it's
and
a fearless
deranged.
actor. It's like
Yeah.
no one is like worried that they look like an idiot. You know, and we know he was dedicated. He showed up at Comic-Con in High Evolutionary gear, and he went for it. And the audience is like, "This is cool, but I don't know who you are or what this is." Which is a shame because now they're like, "Man, I wish I had known how awesome that was because I would have cheered harder when he was there in person." No, that's fearless acting and a great director. That's a guy who trusts a director and a director who makes his actors feel comfortable.
Yeah,
nice job.
That's why you cast your friends and castmates you like. You develop shorthand with them. You have this. You don't need to ask how you want this take to be and do an entire walkthrough because you know how James Gunn wants you to do this take.
Yeah,
and I mean, that's why these movies work as well as they do. I mean, the consistent directors throughout is really, I think it's really important for a franchise.
I mean, I agree with casting people that you work well with and stuff like that. I know I wasn't on that discussion. I haven't even watched that video. I don't know which one of you two was on it, but
not me.
Okay, so that was a Dan and Hustle
video. We didn't make that video.
We did last week. It's on the channel. I see it there.
Oh yeah, no, that was me. Yeah.
Okay.
Another channel.
I wasn't on that.
I was gonna say I know we didn't talk about it much, and I don't want to go super deep into it because we have a video in which Sal talked to Dan about the whole thing.
That's true. Yeah.
But like everyone's freaking out. You're not allowed to hire. It's a thing that's been going on in Hollywood forever. I mean, you know,
Dante's girlfriend was played by Kevin Smith's wife, right? Like,
Never forget the third Godfather movie. Sofia Coppola, before she was a director, was a terrible actress who was the daughter of Francis Ford Coppola.
Bad actor.
Like I'm saying,
terrible actress.
Everyone's trying to put these rules on James Gunn and the DC universe. You can't hire your friends, and it's like,
well, and it's also like. They didn't have an issue when it was Michael Rooker. They didn't have an issue when it was Michael Rosenbaum, who, by the way, the ice face guy, that's Lex Luthor. He's in these movies. The Ravager who has an ice face is Michael Rosenbaum. They didn't have an issue with, what's his face? Nathan Fillion. There's one more. There's one more.
It's just people freaking out because they want to give these. With him being in charge of the DC universe now, everyone wants to make their rules for what James Gunn has to do. Like, and that's where the issue comes in.
And they're really mad about his wife, specifically that his wife. And it's like, dude, I'd be mad too if his wife was a bad actor, but she's Jennifer Holland. Dude,
we're not. This isn't Rob Zombie.
Yeah,
House of Thousand Corpses, where he puts his horrible wife and horrible actor. I don't know her as a person. But
horrible wife.
She's a horrible actor. She's not in. She's in all the Rob Zombie movies, and everybody's like, well, here we go again. And like that's literally, if you're a Rob Zombie director fan, you're just like, well, here we go again.
One of our viewers, Mila Jovovich, is in everything that her husband directs.
That's right. Well, it's
mean,
more like her husband directs everything that she's in because he directs. He did direct the first Resident Evil, but she also stars in it. I think we know that Paul W.S. Anderson does not make those Resident Evil movies. Really, which makes most movies.
Yeah.
But those movies are all terrible anyway.
Right.
But
So
anyway, let's wrap up
it's
our
great.
review here.
Yeah.
Final thoughts. Like, if you want to add any final thoughts, let's do it here. We're hitting an hour. So,
yeah.
Yes.
Hassan, go first. A carte blanche. What do you want to say?
It's a 10 out of 10 movie experience. I tweeted this, and it's a controversial tweet. I said the words. I said, if you don't like, or if you have an issue with this Guardians of the Galaxy, or you don't like this Guardians of the Galaxy movie, I think you're dumb. And that's me. That's like a blanket statement. It's obviously hyperbole, but I meant it. I meant it in the sense of like people in my feed who are angry about this movie.
Right.
I've yet to get a valid criticism. This movie is incredible. It's long. Is your only gripe. I could say it's long, but I think it made sense to be long. It made sense to let us have this incredible story that plays out to wrap up this franchise. It makes you wish you could go back and redo Captain America Civil War and have Civil War be an Avengers movie and let Captain America have his final movie, because the Russos could have done something incredible. This was telling us that the final movie doesn't need to be a crossover movie in a trilogy. We could just get a bombastic finale that elevates the prior movies, because I was never a guy who's going to go back and watch the first two Guardians. I'm that guy now, and I'm a Guardians of the Galaxy diehard fan, and I've never been more excited for James Gunn to take the helm. And 9.8 out of 10.
I can't wait for friggin' Superman now, man.
Yeah. Right. Yes.
I'll agree to a certain extent. I do think everyone has their own opinions. I do feel like people are looking for reasons to either like or hate this, and not just saying, you know what, I didn't mind it. People are like, no, I want to hate on the MCU. Here's where it was sucked. Or they want to like this. I'm like, well, the MCU sucked, so this one only had this one thing that was great. Like, I've seen a lot of that. I have. People try to find a reason to hate on this or like it, when we can't just sit down and be like, hey, I enjoyed the movie. I had a great time. I was emotional. I really enjoyed the fight sequences. I enjoyed everything about it. The humor hit, I think, very well. I don't think it was overdone. I think it was a good pacing between MCU humor and having a solid story. And I still love the scene of Drax being very upset that the suit did not match his eyes. And some of us have suits that are contrasting our eyes, and it doesn't look that well.
Great moment.
Sal, final thought.
Loved it. No complaints. If I wanted to really dig deep, I could find, I was like, a couple of moments, the music was great. Like, all the music choices are great, but felt more like deliberate needle drops than seamless integrations into the movie. But also, music is a big point. It's a big, it's a big theme of these movies, or motif, I should say.
Yeah.
It's not really a theme, but like the idea of by this point, everyone has fallen in love with music like Peter. That's Peter's influence on the Guardians. So it's like everyone's literally putting in earbuds and listening to music during the entire movie. So I get it. That's fine with me. But loved it. I had no major complaints about the movie overall. Loved the direction of all the characters. It was bittersweet. Tear-jerking experience. And makes me but I am still in no way more comfortable about the direction of the MCU, because this is an outlier. You know what I mean? Like, it's not the only thing we know now is that Shia LaBeouf will be in the MCU, hopefully, and I'm like, yay, good. But that doesn't help us.
This gives us more of a
writing
scope
or story.
It's weird to walk out of an MCU movie being hopeful for DC. Right? That's what I got from, because James isn't coming back. He's too big. James will not direct a DC or a Marvel project for at least 15 years minimum.
I'll even go so far. The next Disney-related thing that James Gunn directs will be a Star Wars movie.
Wow.
Like, it won't even be Marvel if he ever leaves DC. When DC is acquired by another company,
and they shoot him out,
and they reboot again, he will go back to Disney, but he will make a Star Wars movie before Marvel.
Yeah. I'll agree with you on that one. This is not gonna. This movie alone is not like the MCU is back in form.
No, I want to feel that way.
No, my tweet was it felt like
though.
it was back, but Marvel's is going to be the next bit, because that's also been in the cooker for a very long time.
Yeah.
So is that going to be garbage, or is it going to be incredible? If Marvel's comes out and I come out of that at least like, you know what, I enjoyed the movie, then I'm going to be hopeful the MCU is going back into form.
Yes.
But we need the two together. We need the two. But if Marvel's comes out, and I feel like if Marvel's hits and I don't even bother seeing it because it's just how bad the reviews are coming across, then we'll know. Well,
right. We do know that you can't trust the reviews for the Marvels, because they will be skewed by people who didn't see it.
Yeah. That's fair. You said something about music, and it really resonated with me. Just the way they use music in the final scene is really, really cool. And it shifts between soundtrack to coming out of practical speakers and almost like a camera environment.
Yeah.
And that I really love that. I don't think I've ever watched anything that does that outside of like one thing in like a car, but it really seamlessly goes in and out of that. And this is an incredible directorial experience. I think that like James Gunn's incredible. Holy crap, he's an incredible director, and this movie was so good. I had another thought, but I totally lost the thread. I love this movie so much.
I love this movie.
Well, I'm going to close out our review here. I'm Benny from Comic Historian. That is Hudson from Bad Days, and that is Sal from Comic Pop. Make sure you go check out our individual channels, and if you like these kinds of discussions, make sure you like, subscribe, hit that notification bell right here at Absolutely, as we try to do daily videos. Sometimes there's a lot of news, but you can try to check back every day. They'll have something from us. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.